This is Big Yahoo. On day 7 he destroyed my will to live and erased an hour of my life. So today we are attempting to beat Plants vs Zombies Fusion with only beans and their fusions. The rules are simple. We must have a legume as our base plant, and we can only use plants in the legume family with their fusions. This includes plants like the pea shooter and 3-blower Bob. Sadly, there is only one real bean in this game and I haven't unlocked him just yet. This is my first time ever playing PvZ Fusion, so if you enjoyed, why not like and subscribe to tell me you want to see me suffer more on this game. And with all the filler out the way, let's start the challenge. PvZ Fusion opens on day 1 where it insisted that I plant a sunflower. Since you cannot start the game without following this tutorial, I caved, but I instantly removed it so it had no impact on gameplay whatsoever. As we started day 1, it became apparent that I had never played this game before and I failed it thanks to the lack of sun. This struck the fear of God into me. If I was struggling on day 1, then what would the other 49 days be like? I already knew that Chinese fan games were hard, but this was going to be something else. As I restarted the day, I came to another realization. When the game forces you into a tutorial, it keeps giving you sun until you complete it. This gave me an idea. I would go and make a coffee, while the game gave me all the sun I could ever need to build the ultimate line of defense before the day could even start. As we attempted the day with this genius strategy, I found that we were able to beat the day with relative ease. Moving on to day 2, things were no trickier than day 1, but I did find out that more and more zombies started coming on me. There's nothing really all that notable about day 2, but at this point I was still playing with a different rule set where I wasn't allowed to have any sun producers. Thank fuck I changed that. As we arrived on day 3, we were introduced to the Buckethead zombie, who had an insane amount of health. I know it's probably a similar amount of health than what he had in PvZ 1 and 2, but seeing the number on screen will never not be wild to me. On this day we also discovered a new fusion, the peanut fusion. Before I decided to allow all fusions stemming from legumes, I was severely limited to what plants I could use, and the peanut was one of only a handful of fusions I could actually play with. Once again, I'm very glad I changed the rule set. Not only was it too painful, but I also think this way makes it a more entertaining video to watch. Luckily, this day was incredibly easy and didn't really warrant much yapping from me in this video, so we can move straight on to day 4 where we meet yet another new zombie type, the pole dancing zombie. What this geeked out little guy does is he twicks it all up onto my plants and leaps over them. On this day, we were introduced to a new mechanic special to PvZ Fusion, the glove. What the glove does is it allows you to firmly grasp the shaft of any plant and vigorously move it to allow for extra fusions or even to just simply relocate the plant. Sadly, even grabbing the plant shaft wasn't enough, and this was another day I failed thanks to my stupid plants placement and the skill of the pole dancing zombie. It was at this point I just started to use the sun pea to give myself that little edge which allowed me to beat this day on my second attempt thanks to the help of my Twitch chat. Speaking of which, this challenge is also being streamed over at twitch.tv/Whoie, so why don't you come and visit to get some small streamer bragging rights. On day 5, I made a discovery that would change my perspective of Plants vs Zombies Fusion forever. There was a zombie with a pea shooter head. I don't even want to think about the anatomy of how a zombie in a pea shooter got down, but I'll assume it had something to do with the pea shooter's pea hole. Realising that the zombies could also fuse, I wondered what other amalgamations were waiting for me into the future. But as for day 5, the day came and went like your dad going to get milk. As we moved on to day 6, the challenge really started to ramp up. On this day, we were introduced to the Mario zombie, who, for some reason, had over 5,000 health. We are only on the 6th day and are already being thrown zombies with a health pool the size of a common English village. This once again made me fear for my sanity, and my chat wondered if this was a first warning sign of an unfinished challenge, but I am nothing if not stubborn. Day 6 took me about 10 minutes to beat, not because I was delaying the zombies mind you, but it was just because that's how long it took to take out all of these Mario looking zombies. These developers are some masochistic bastards, but this would be nothing compared to day 7, as it proved to be one of the hardest, most ball-crushingly difficult days I have ever played in a Plants vs Zombies game. The reason for this is because of the pea shooter zombie, but this wasn't just any pea shooter zombie, it was Big Yahoo. When this guy got ever so slightly pissed off, he would launch bomb after bomb, clearing multiple lanes in front of him. Since I could only generate so much sun and all my fused plants would be insta-killed by Big Yahoo, I failed this day many times at around the halfway point. Luckily, I had an ace up my sleeve. This day was yet another tutorial day where it introduced me to the present gimmick, and just like day 1, the day wouldn't stop giving me sun until we completed the tutorial. Sadly, the sun didn't have next day delivery, so I had to wait for what felt like hours to build enough sun to get some epic defences. Eventually, we did get enough sun and placed what I thought were pretty strong defences, but as I started the day, Big Yahoo returned and blew me hard, making me once again fail the day and wasting an hour of my life. This made me angry, and at this point I was thinking, holy guacamole, how was I going to beat this? I tried many different fusions. I tried the peanut, the Gatling pea, and even the cherry pea, but none of these were powerful enough to stop Big Yahoo from committing war crimes. I was losing hope. But it was at this time that I discovered something called advanced fusions. Advanced fusions were especially powerful fusions that could be unlocked by giving Dave certain services. And upon seeing that Big Yahoo had a cherry bomb pea shooter, I thought if you can't beat him, join him. So I went to complete the challenge that gave me the Explode OP, but as a side note, I don't actually consider these challenges as part of the main challenge, so any plants in these were fair game. Of course, it didn't stop me from failing anyway, so I just decided to crank the difficulty right down. It didn't really make the challenge any easier, all I could really notice was it reduced the zombie speed slightly. If you've made it this far into the video, be sure to comment below, wow Whoie, I can't believe you beat this game on the hardest difficulty, you're so cool and awesome sauce. After managing to unlock the Explode OPs, I went back to day 7 and decided I was going to try my original cheese strategy one more time. After going to grab another coffee, I was caffeinated enough to kill an elephant, and I returned to enough sun to make Sun Tzu cry. We then built an army of Explode OPs, peanuts, and snap pea looking things. This might have been overkill, but I would like to think it makes up for my gigantic skill issue. After another long slog of a day, we actually managed to beat day 7. I was both proud of myself and fearful of levels to come, but as we went to day 8, we managed to beat it on our first attempt. It's really nice to see this game's difficulty curve took inspiration from PvZ 2. The same can be said for day 9, with absolutely nothing going on other than us beating it on our first try without the need of cheese. As we moved on to day 10, we have officially made it to the next area, but this time it was dark for ages. The game highly recommended some puff shrooms, but last time I checked, puff shrooms were not legumes, so I digged those invasive little shits up and placed my sun peas. At this time I came to another realization. I would receive no sun from the big man in the sky for the next 10 days. This made these days really finicky, requiring a lot of shaft movements. But in the end, we did manage to beat day 10 on our first attempt, thanks to the help of most of our mowers. I genuinely don't know how I'm going to get through the next 9 days. It seems almost impossible from where I'm standing now, but at least we won't have to wait long to find out. On day 11, I brought out the strategy I would be using for most of the Dark Ages: sun pea spam and a lot of shaft movements. I think the only plant I used on this day was the sun pea, which surprisingly made this day one of the easiest ones yet. Sadly, this set of easy levels would not stay easy for too long. As we moved on to day 12, we attempted the day with the exact same strategy, but it was on this day where we were introduced to the All-Star Zombie, who was preparing to sing Smash Mouth. This day wasn't anything remarkable, but we did cut it very close and lost all of our mowers by the end of the day. So far, these stages were nowhere near as difficult as I first assumed. I think it's due to the fact that they've been throwing less zombies at me to compensate for the lack of sun, or maybe it's because I am clearly the greatest PvZ gamer in the whole world. Either way, I'm awesome. On day 13, we were introduced to yet another game mechanic: fertilizer. What the fertilizer does is it summons Crazy Dave, who comes and fertilizes you, filling you with pleasant feelings and restoring your plant's health to full. Apparently it also upgrades some plants, but it doesn't work with most of my legumes, so I'll just have to go without that feature. As day 13 was a tutorial day, it wanted me to fertilize my own nuts, but I refused, giving myself a vasectomy. But it seems the game didn't like that, and so it softlocked me with no way to continue. But when I restarted the day, I managed to get by with my usual strategy, plus an Explode OP for good measure. On day 14, we decided we would once again spam sun peas, but this was yet another easy day which gave me nothing notable to say, so instead, it's time for yet another fun seal fact. Did you know seals are actually very round and very cute? This made them perfect for the operation that took out Bin Laden. Realising these days were starting to get far too easy, I thirsted for some challenge. But then, day 15 came with just what I needed, a new zombie variant. It was the pole dancing zombie, but he had a new hairstyle. With this new hairstyle, what he did was invite all the hot singles in the area to join him in his pole dancing classes. So every time he vaults my plants, he summons 4 more hot singles in his area. Luckily on this day, I managed to prevent him and his friends from jumping any of my plants. Thankfully, this means we beat this day on our first attempt. However, the PvZ Fusion developers decided this zombie wasn't difficult enough. They thought it would be a great idea to bring in a new zombie that spawns a bunch of pole dancing zombies for good measure. So just to recap, the game spawns in a zombie who spawns 4 zombies who can also spawn 4 zombies. This means if I make a single mistake, we could possibly be fighting an extra 16 zombies at once. And this zombie that spawns in more zombies is none other than the reanimated corpse of Michael Jackson. Luckily, by the time the reproducing zombies could appear on my screen, my defenses were already too strong and we could pass day 16 on our first attempt. This brings us directly to day 17, where we meet yet another new zombie type, the prostate zombie, who has been rubbing his nut so hard that it turned red. Apparently, this zombie has over 1.5 times the health of a normal gargantua. Amazingly, we managed to get through this day and we only lost 1 mower. At this point, my fear kept growing, but then I recalled the ancient texts. There was a plant who was meant to be so powerful, so strong and so epic that he would carry me through the entire game. That plant was Chompzilla. You may be wondering, well, how is he a legume? Well, he is in fact a pea shooter, a nut and a chomper, all combined, technically putting him in the legume family tree. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Before we started day 18, we completed the challenge and unlocked our most powerful fusion yet. Sadly, I couldn't just spam Chompzilla as I needed a lot of sun for all of his ingredients, turning him into my late game trump card. By this day, I had mastered my setup to the point that by the end of each day, I would have a mountain of sun, so I got to test out Chompzilla, and he may just be the most OP plant I have ever seen in my entire life. He basically soloed the whole day, and from what I could see, he was near invincible. Sadly, in the next world, he wouldn't be anywhere near as helpful as I initially assumed. On day 19, we encountered the next gimmick of PvZ Fusion, and it was the return of the big wave beach in the form of lily pads. Of course, I was no quitter, and I wasn't going to break out the bean pad just yet, so I had to think of a new way of dealing with all the new swimming zombies. As the new swimmer zombies edged further and further in my face, my Twitch chat gave me an all-new strategy. When you fuse the cherry bomb and the pea shooter busts and clears a lot of tiles in his vicinity. So every time a swimmer zombie would get close, I would blast him with my pea. The downside to this strategy is it uses an insane amount of sun and the cherry bomb cooldown is very long, so I had to time it just right. However, with this strategy we did manage to beat day 19 on our first attempt. And the same goes for day 20, with it being the first day that actually felt like a duplicate of the last, which actually goes to show the quality of this fan game, since if I recall correctly, the original Plants vs Zombies games had lots of filler levels and levels that could easily be removed, so it's nice to see a PvZ game where most days are different from each other. As we moved on to day 21, we unlocked our next legume, 3-blower Bob. It's nice to be able to use 3-blower Bob on one of these challenges, and it's a good thing we got him here too, since he can actually hit swimming zombies without the need of a lily pad. Sadly, the game knew this and brought out a zombie especially to counter 3-blower Bob. It was the snorkel zombie, who dodged every single projectile by diving under the water and consuming all the algae in sight. Luckily, I could just revert back to my old reliable cherry bomb technique to deal with him. With this, we were able to beat day 21 on our very first attempt. We continue PvZ Fusion on day 22, where we are given just a little tease with a huge tip. Sadly, we could not enjoy this huge tip to the fullest as it required a fusion that needed something other than a legume to be placed first. That's right, it was the kelp fusion. Seeing that it was already here, I made the executive decision to not piss off Crazy Dave and dig it up, or he would send me to a certain island. With the help of this very busted fusion, we managed to clear day 22 without issue. As we continued on to day 23, I thought I would try and fuse a special land kelp. However, it turns out this fusion did not exist. I know there's an almanac, but reading is for losers. Just don't tell BookTok I said that. On this day, we were also introduced to a new zombie type, the lawnmower zombie, who insta-kills any plant they touch in a very specific way. This made me worry, as when I moved Chompzilla right to his feet, he did not survive. However, now that I am reviewing the footage, I think it's more due to the fact that I placed him a bit too late, essentially tossing hundreds of sun out the window. Luckily, after the great Chompzilla incident, we managed to beat this day on our first attempt and only lost a single mower. Moving on to day 24, we meet yet another new zombie, the bobsled zombie. What this guy does is the exact same thing as the lawnmower zombie, but this time he aims to freeze. This zombie is chill, almost like a man named Bill. I guess you could call him John Cold. Even with John Cold coming to chill my beans, he wasn't the real threat. The real threat was the swimmer zombies once again, but with the power of my cherry pea fusion explosion, we managed to take them out and beat this day on our first attempt. On day 25, we were introduced to yet another new zombie type, the Poseidon zombie, who threw his dangly pointy thing at my plants, damaging them. Sadly, I remembered the existence of another zombie on this day, and it was the Shart zombie. This big shit had so much HP, but he didn't actually prove that much of an issue, that is until he got down to 5 out of 1300 HP. At this point, he went Ultra Instinct and made me fail the day. This shit hurt, and now we had to play this long ass day again. Luckily, on our second attempt, we came prepared and blasted this Shart back to Kingdom Come, allowing us to beat this day. This was then followed by day 26, which didn't pose any sort of issue whatsoever, so once again I'm going to introduce to you another fun seal fact. There are only a few days left until a certain seal has to eat some cement, and no, I'm not giving you context. As we arrived on day 27, we were introduced to another day type, conveyor belt days. Now, since I cannot actually pick my plants on these days, they won't count towards the challenge, but as for day 27, I wanted to do a little fun side challenge. Can I beat day 27 with only legumes? Well, not really, since I had to plant and dig up a lot more plants on the conveyor belt in order to get more 3-peaters, but if you disregard that, we managed to beat this day with only legumes and their fusions, which I think is pretty cool. This led us to day 28 and the start of another set of nighttime levels. I was not looking forward to this, as the last set of nighttime levels were particularly brutal, and not only does this set of levels not give any sun from the big man in the sky, but it also has severe fog, which greatly deteriorates the player's sanity as the days progress. Day 28 wanted us to use the sunset shroom in order to keep up with sun production, but I was no quitter. However, it turned out my stubbornness only caused me problems, as the second zombie that spawned was in fact a swimmer zombie, and we didn't have the sun to deal with him. As soon as the second swimmer zombie hit the pentagon, we failed this day, and I knew I needed another sun producer. As I recalled back onto the thousands of comments from my original beans only challenge, I had many people tell me that somehow nuts were actually legumes, and so I devised a plan. I would be allowed to use nuts and merge them with sunflowers, since some could argue they are in the legume family. But if that still isn't good enough for you, I peed on them for good measure, turning them into a peanut, which is definitely a legume. With our new sun producing strategy in tow, we managed to beat day 28 on our first attempt. In my restless dreams I see that day, day 29. On this day, we were introduced to another new zombie, the Whoie zombie. He had escaped the asylum and was coming to lick my nuts. This day started us off with a swimmer zombie, but he didn't make that much of a difference, and we actually beat day 29 on our first attempt, without even encountering the new zombie type. Maybe the real insane zombie was the friends we made along the way. As we made it to day 30, we were introduced to yet another new zombie type who would forever be the bane of my existence. It was the balloon zombie, a zombie who was such a massive nonce, it would make an exiled UK prince blush. What this zombie does is he flies over all my plants' violent endeavours, leaving me with no choice but to use an insta-fusion on him. Luckily, these insta-fusions did do the trick and wiped out the balloon zombie, and with him out the way, we managed to beat this day on our first attempt. But there was something I realised here. The bear was coming. On day 31, we were introduced to yet another new gimmick of PvZ fusion, the mallet. What it does is if you bonk a zombie with it, it does some fat damage in a nearby area. Some people would argue this is a power up, but I would argue shut the fuck up. It's on a long cooldown and it's on the same hotbar as the shaft gripper, so how could I not use it? Luckily, the mallet helped me beat day 31 on our first attempt, which I already assumed would be easy since it was technically a tutorial day anyway. The bear is at the door. What will you do? As we got to day 32, we encountered yet another new enemy. It was the exact replica of the Enola Gay. No, I'm not being homophobic, that's just the name of the USA's genocide plane from World War II. Thankfully, this plane never turned up thanks to my insane firepower. Or so I thought, until I saw a gigantic health bar floating slowly and ominously towards me. Luckily, I was saving my mallet for this very moment, and with one bonk, we could stop any more nukes from dropping, allowing me to beat the day. The bear is in my house. How do we stop him? As we moved on to day 33, we met yet another new zombie type. It was the miner zombie who was trying to escape an army of Minecraft YouTubers. Unfortunately, his escape plan involved digging underground and eating the behind of all my plants. I now have to condemn the actions of 3-Blower Bob as he has done some heinous things named in the files. With the help of my P insta-fusions and my lucky mallet, day 33 was another day we managed to beat on our first attempt. The bear has been dealt with. He is my friend now. Day 34 was a fat long schlong of a day with some stupid ass zombies. First of all, this day had 4 big fat waves, which wouldn't have been an issue, but then the surfing zombie turned up. This fucker appears in one of the water lanes going at the speed of sound. In fact, my reaction times are so slow, by the time I recognised what was going on, he showed up to my home, stole my toenails, and cracked my crack. Thanks to this surfing little shit, we'd failed day 34 a couple of times. The one way I could actually get him was by toggling the slow mode, which was an absolute lifesaver. To make matters worse, this surfing zombie wasn't the only one causing me issues on this day, as it also had so many miners rushing my plants at once. This meant I had to waste so much sun on cherry pea fusions just to clear them out, and in the end, I did manage to beat the day, but seriously, this day can go fuck itself. We finally made it to day 35 with only 10 days left of the entire challenge. Honestly, I've been surprised at just how easy this game has been, especially at difficulty 0, which is clearly the hardest difficulty. But due to the inverse difficulty curve of this game, it means if I was going to compare this game to anything, I guess I'd be comparing it to Bloodborne. As for day 35, on this day we were met with some pre-placed plants which I continued to allow, but with the power of Chompzilla, this day proved to be easy since it was the first day in a while without a single swimmer zombie playing to my strengths. In fact, Chompzilla made this day so easy, I just cranked up my game speed and watched the slaughter commence. This saved me so much time since this game's levels can sometimes be painfully long. I wish I knew there was a fast mode 35 levels ago. Either way, day 35 was beaten on our first attempt. On day 36 we were presented with yet another conveyor belt day, but sadly this one didn't have a single legume, so we had to go ahead and beat it normally. It was a fun day, but it didn't give me anything new to talk about in terms of the challenge, so instead I'm going to present you with a sad seal fact. Did you know it's been nearly 3 years since the beloved Ponsuke passed away? His memory must always be honoured. As we approached day 37, we made it to the final stages, the rooftops. It turns out on these days you can only plant plants on plant pots, and when a plant pot, it plant pots its pot. Sadly, whenever a plant dies, so does its pot, making that tile useless. Now I know you can put down some more pots, but I thought that would go against the spirit of the challenge, and so I decided to play these levels without planting a single one, and let me tell you now, the impact on difficulty this made was insane. It was so insane that it didn't impact the difficulty whatsoever. As I laid down my plants, I realised another aspect of these levels. If you place a projectile plant on a visible slant, it will actually hit the roof instead of a zombie, meaning if I planted some pea shooters in the back lane, they would be practically useless. Of course, that wouldn't stop me from doing just that, and we managed to beat day 37 on our first attempt. As we got to day 38, we met yet another new zombie type. It was the pogo zombie who bounced on its sexual style. Luckily, I had an ace up my sleeve, my final line of defense consisting of the Sun Nut and Chompzilla. It was beautiful. Chompzilla could stop anything in his way, and with the Sun Nut behind him, I felt truly unstoppable. So unstoppable in fact, that I beat day 38 on my first attempt. This day was followed by day 39, which consisted of the exact same strategy as the day before. Create a scam, release a game, then declare bankruptcy 3 days later. Anyway, day 39 was beaten with ease with nothing else notable to say about it. As we arrived to day 40, you could hazard a pretty good guess at what we did. That's right, we used the exact same strategy again, which pretty much made this day child's play. At this point, I was starting to get a little bit worried about the entertainment value of this video. Were my beans too powerful? Why did this game get easier as it went? But either way, it didn't matter because we managed to beat this day on our first attempt anyway. I needed new ways to make this video entertaining. No one wants to watch a man overpower his opponent unless they're watching him play a game of soggy biscuits. And so now, every time I find a day easy, I'm going to say that paragraph in a way that I wouldn't usually speak. We all good with that? Well, you fucking better be. Once we arrived at day 41, we saw another new zombie type, and yes, it was yet another zombie that bounced on it. Sadly, my setup was too powerful to realise what this zombie does, and I can't even recall encountering him, but there was another zombie who actually posed a threat. It was the basketball zombie. What this guy did is launch his balls at my face from very far away, so far that not even the Chompzilla could reach him. But it was here that I improvised my setup ever so slightly. I decided it would be a good idea to add some range to my defences, so I added a couple of 3-blower bobs next to my sun nuts. Now you may be wondering why I did this since they can't actually attack thanks to the roof slant. Well, when I fuse my 3-blower bob with a chili, it instantly wipes out 3 lanes, allowing me to deal with the basketball zombie and helping me beat this day on my first attempt. As we got to day 43, we met the very first Gargs of this game, and naturally I wondered how Chompzilla would fare against them. Naturally, he insta-killed them, but this was a double-edged sword, since the Gargs could actually insta-kill him right back if I got unlucky enough. Fortunately, this only happened once this day, and I beat it losing only 1 mower. I'm starting to wonder whatever happened to the zombie fusions from earlier. They made the start of this game really challenging, and now they're just nowhere to be seen. It seems Big Yahoo had finally paid for his war crimes. As we moved on to day 44, I did the exact same setup as usual, but there was one new zombie type introduced, and it was the Explodo basketball zombie. This guy actually made this day quite tricky, since he was just a beefed up version of the previous zombie. This little fucker managed to chunk or even insta-kill a lot of my plants. Fortunately though, my setup was foolproof, and I managed to insta-kill him right back with some 3-peter fusions, before once again first trying this day. This led us to day 45, which was yet another conveyor belt day, which didn't have any legumes, so we beat it normally before moving on to day 1. Wait, hang on, day 1, let me check my script, hang on. Wait, that can't be right. Hang on. Oh. Upon googling it, I've realised this game only has 45 days. There is no final boss, there is no big narrative arc, no, there's nothing. At this point I was racking my brain thinking what I can do now, what I unlocked, but it seems all I unlocked was Bloon's tower defense. There was no more classic mode to beat, it had already been done. I felt robbed, not by the game, but by myself. I made this challenge too easy. This game was truly a breath of fresh air, and it was actually a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind coming back to PvZ Fusion to do some more challenges, but that fully depends on how this video does. And don't worry, if I do come back, I'm cranking that difficulty right up. If you want to see more, do let me know in the comments below, or the bear will come to your house next.